So give yourselves a woo. Woo! Oh, y'all are good. But you gotta get the hands going too. So, okay, will you do it again? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Woo!
Hello, good morning. Everybody, are you giving yourselves a woo? We need a little woo up here in the Midwest. It is 7 below zero here in Kansas City. And that's not just the wind chill. That's the actual temperature. I cannot believe it. It's like, oh my goodness. So I want to invite y'all. I'm so glad that you are joining us. And I want to invite you to leave some comments. Firstly, tell me that you're here. Say good morning. And hey there, Kyla. Say good morning.
My child.
And Alicia. Woohoo, honey. Thank you for being on here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you watch a lot when you can, so it's really nice to have you on as my guest today. Pretty special.
Yeah.
You want to just wave hi out there to everybody?
I feel awkward. So
I know it's a little different when you're not used to it, and but don't worry about it. It is going to be great because you're just going to be sharing from your heart, or just whatever parts of the story come out. It's very nice. So Alicia said, well, you can ask me questions, or
yeah.
And I said, yeah, because it's easier. Like, you're not giving a speech. This is not a speech. But Alicia did share and did a speech at one of the early Fun Fearless Female events here in Kansas City, and really did an excellent job. I think that was, gosh, Alicia, you were you might have only been out clean and sober a couple of years at that point.
Yeah, I just moved back. So I was, I think, 2.5 years, maybe
something like that. Yeah. I just ran across some of those pictures of that event. And it's like, oh my gosh, there she is. So, all righty. Well, as everybody's clicking on, it's like, oh, I love this. So again, good morning, Kyla. Yay. That is Alicia's daughter. And Sherry, and Facebook user who says, hi, hello, Delinda Lane. If you could give permission for them to post your name, that would be great. Or tell me who you are. Tell us on here on the chat. And Kathy, thank you. And hi, good morning. Andrea, Southern California. And Sandy Archer. So nice to have you. We are going to get right into our topic today. Alicia, I'm so proud of her this week, like tomorrow, I think, right, Alicia?
Yeah.
17th. We'll be celebrating her 13th year of being clean and sober. So like, yay, woo! That is marvelous. And we now have such an amazing relationship. I mean, we talk nearly every day. Facebook with Henry, our sweet little grandson, who is 5.5 at this point, right? And it's just amazing. And I have to just tell y'all, from a mom perspective, there were years I could never even imagine the fact that I would be having a normal conversation with Alicia. I mean, wouldn't you agree, Alicia? We had some pretty tough times.
Yeah. There were some rocky patches there for a while.
Yeah, there were. And I tell you, God is good. The fact that she's even alive, you guys. I mean, I just know that the reason she is because God has great things for her in store. And it just, addiction pulls your family apart. It's painful to the family. It's painful to the person going through it. So Alicia, just tell us a little bit about when you first started, because you did both alcohol and drugs.
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, like starting from, I'm just a little uncomfortable. Like starting from the beginning?
Yeah, just a little bit. Was it at a party, somebody's house? When did you start it? And when did you kind of continue on? I mean, I think it was somewhere in the junior high sort of time. But, mothers are clueless. So,
Yeah. Well, middle school, I kind of dabbled a little bit with, like, I think I smoked weed maybe once or twice. So it wasn't a thing. Then high school was where it, like, the drinking took off. So I drank pretty regularly on the weekends. Or maybe I didn't every weekend. I don't really remember. But all my friends drank, musical theater. After all of that, we would go drink, and I was always good at lying about if I was doing these things and where I was and who I was with. Well, I didn't really lie about who I was with. But it was easy because we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have like pictures that could pop up anywhere, or I think I had a pager. So if you needed to talk to me, you could page me, which makes me feel really old. But yeah, high school was just drinking until later in high school when I started doing some drugs. And then after high school, there were some times where I didn't do anything. Like I was pretty, straight-laced and didn't dabble or use anything. And then early 20s is when I think I was 22 or 23 and I started having some surgeries. And that's when it really took off. And though I do remember one time I had one and I had a bunch of painkillers and I gave them to my friend and I said, you need to flush these because I have a problem.
Really?
So that obviously ended my desire not to have them. But yeah, I was drinking and then I had surgeries and I always had meds for that. And then when it really took off, I had strep throat, but strep got into my blood and I was in the hospital and couldn't move my legs. And I got painkillers for that. And that is when I was in Oklahoma, Mom.
Oh, okay.
And then it just, around that time, as I was doing a lot of other things as well, along with alcohol. And then as the years went on, it was not drinking really, but just painkillers and anti-anxiety meds were my thing. And it was easy then to get meds from doctors when you were as manipulative as drug addicts are. Because we're very good at manipulating our way into getting what we want. And it's just one of those, there's a special kind of manipulation that happens when you're an alcoholic or drug addict. So that's
one of the things I remember asking you at some point in the past was, I said, well, where are you? Because it seemed to get really worse. And so for y'all watching, you moms, and probably no dads out there, but the moms out there, if you have an addict in your family, I would say there were times when my gut would tell me something just wasn't right. But when she says that she was good, she was really good at manipulating. She knew what triggers, because this in your families anyway, that, the children and the parents too know the triggers for the kids and for each other, and she would know just the right things to say, or she would prepare ahead. And I know it's embarrassing now, honey, but the fact that you own up to this. And so I'm going to tell y'all right now, the fact that she does own up to her choices, good and bad, is really an amazing thing, because it takes, I don't think you can stay clean and sober if you don't actually realize it and own up to the choices you made in the past, which is why once you decided to change, that it happens, because you really are owning those. And if more of the people in the world would own up to their choices and take responsibility, the world would be a better place. I just think. So I really applaud you for that. And sitting here talking about it, because I know in some ways it's got to be embarrassing for you.
Yes.
But the other side of the coin is so powerful. That's where you were. And then here's where you are now, married with kids, and you get your cute little Henry, and and the Alana and Kyla, and all of that wasn't part of your life and wouldn't even be part of your life if you were still drugging. We had a couple of close calls. I don't know if you'd be alive. I don't think so.
I don't think I would be.
No. And that's a hard thing to think about, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So anyway, I remember asking, so like, where, Alicia, do you get this? I say, are you paying for drugs to, the corner for drug, pushers and stuff? So tell them about that.
I never, unless I was doing harder drugs where I needed to get a dealer, I would do that. But I always knew somebody. It was easy for me to just call someone who I hung out with and be like, hey, can you do this or whatever? But it was doctors. It was me manipulating doctors because I had so many surgeries, so I had a reason. And then back then, 15 years ago, it was easy for doctors to do that. Now there's so many stipulations on how, people can get controlled substances. It wasn't like that. And sometimes, somehow, when I was in LA, I had somehow come across a doctor who was a little questionable with his morals and ethics. And you could tell by going into his office that people knew. So it's just a mess. That wouldn't happen these days. It would never happen, which is good because now they are sticklers about it, and you can't just do that.
Because you would just basically go into an office, different doctors, because if you went to the same doctor, they're not going to give it to you. So you would go to different doctors and be your sweet little self. And I'm in so much pain and I need some help.
It's terrible. Look at me. Poor me.
I don't mean to be laughing about it, but it's
funny.
Thinking back on it, it's like, oh my gosh. And that's where I think why it took us, your dad and I, longer to realize, because she wasn't living with us. If you were living with it every day, you're going to be able to see it more. But for a while she was out in LA. She was in Oklahoma and she was in LA, and then she moved out to Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, that's when I just knew something was bad going on, and so I began searching out. And
that was a tough time. Abusive relationship. It was, how do I check out without physically checking out, but how do I get high all the time so I don't have to deal with this? So and that was the end. That was the beginning of the end.
Well, or the end of the beginning.
Well, either way.
I know, but you're in a great place.
Yeah.
But that was when things really started shifting. And fortunately, I had met the person that she was in a relationship with, and that person, I don't know, she liked me or something. And so she would talk to me. So I began intercepting and talking to her about, and she told me about an episode where you almost died, and it's like, okay. Finding out that I went on a search to find out information, and I had a great friend whose son had gone through the similar things. So I found out on how we hired a interventionist. Is that what they're called? So we had an intervention, and one of the things, sometimes we don't know how God works, and we got a notice in the mail. So Alicia was out in Pennsylvania, but she was driving our car. It was in our name. And it was like the weirdest thing. Out of the blue, I got this message: the car license are due, and you have to bring the car has to be in Nevada. And I'm thinking, that is ridiculous. You can title a car, not title, but you can renew your license, in another state or whatever. But no matter who I called, they just said emphatically, you have to do this. So that was God, because that was the only way I could get Alicia from Pennsylvania out to Vegas, where we were, where I could see her, get her in our actual space. So that little weird thing that happened with the DMV. And at that point, we had already contacted the professional to do the intervention with, and Alicia started driving. She's always been a driver. She still loves to drive. She's driven cross country multiple times. And we literally prayed her in. She had some problems along the way, and she came through here. Well, you went and saw our friends in Ohio.
Yeah.
Who I think gave you some money because you had no cash.
I don't remember most of this situation.
I know. And that's scary, because here she was, not even hardly knowing what she was doing, but God was protecting her. And so saw our friends in Ohio, and then came through here and stayed with your best friend here in town, here in Kansas City.
Christine was essential in that.
Essential. Yeah.
Yep.
And she did some finding out just exactly how you were doing. So
I know.
Yeah. And I know, get this point. And so it really was. So it came down to the day Alicia was there. The intervention person came, and Alicia made the choice to go with her, because the truth is she didn't have to. And no one can make an addict do anything, right, Alicia?
No. The more you push, I feel like the more somebody pushes for somebody to get sober, if they're not ready or willing to get sober, it's not going to work. And if they do get sober, then there's a chance of relapse, because they didn't do it for themselves. So I feel like, without me even knowing that I was done, I was done. And it was that whole, it was like the show Intervention. It was letters from people and a circle around me and this stranger just talking, and it was annoying. I didn't like it. If it was done, I don't know, but I remember taking Justin outside. I'm like, you got to go on a walk with me here. We have to go. But yeah, I was just done. I don't know why, it was like, and I think I said this at your conference, but it was like God, higher power, was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself.
Okay, slow down and say that again, because yes, that's powerful.
God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Mm-hmm. So it was like almost an out of body experience. And I don't remember, but I don't think I even hesitated much.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
You did. Well, you said, I got to get out of here for a minute. And you did. You took your walk and you went back, and we know later that you took one more little pill.
No, Mom, I went into where my suitcase was, and just handful. If I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out.
I'm going to feel good, because she was going to get on a plane. The lady, do you remember her name?
Pat.
So Pat was taking her on a plane over to California. That was already all arranged where she was going to go. And that in itself is another whole story between the detox and the recovery and leaving the first house to where you wound up. Yeah. It's an ongoing thing. And sometimes the first place where they go, so first was the intervention where you had to agree, and then you physically got on the plane. That's probably because of the drug you took back in the bedroom, and then she had to go through your stuff. But the fact that you made that decision, you actually got on the plane, nobody could force you. So
No.
it was your choice. And that's the thing to always remember. And whenever you might happen to doubt yourself, is that you made that choice for yourself. You are where you are today and have the relationships in your life because of the choice you made. And I know it wasn't easy. I think, Alicia, one of the other things on the same order as what you just said, that you actually did say at the conference and I've asked you a couple times about it, but you remember that you said every day you would pray, God, get in my head before I do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't that powerful, you guys? Like, oh my gosh, God, get in my head before I do. And I think we all can say that, whether we're an addict or what. That's what we really want, right? We don't always do such a great job just ourselves, but knowing that God is there for us. So what other? So talk about a little bit about the experience of when you got off, in California and went to detox. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, that was terrible. It's when I got there, it's, like, I don't really know what happened. I don't know. But I got there and they did like trying to figure out what kind of medical detox I needed to do, as far as like, cause you get a certain medication that it was a controlled substance that was just for detox. So every day I would wean myself. They would wean me off. So, and I mean, it's when you see on TV and you see all that stuff about people being really sick when they detox and just terrible, that's real. Like, that is absolutely, your body hurts, you throw up, you feel terrible. It's awful. And I was there for like 7 days, which is a lot to be in detox. But it was, and we had to go to meetings all the time. It was the first time I went to AA. We had group therapy, and we had to go. We couldn't just feel sick in our rooms. And I was lucky because I was in Laguna Beach. And so they had, they would take us to the beach and they would take us outside. And overall, it was a good experience, other than like the physical aspect of it. So that was it was terrible. Not suggested. It was awful.
Yeah. I remember you saying, Mom, I'll never go on drugs again because you said, I will never go through detox, so I will never do drugs.
Yeah.
So it must have been pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then, and I think one of the things that we as on the other side can do is to just be there as a support. We could not, I think we were only allowed to come down and see you once or twice during that week you were there.
It was once. And you guys could come down for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was it.
So we did. We were in Vegas, so we drove over and did that, of course. And then there's that, because it's a series of steps. It's that recognizing that you need the help. It's accepting it, going through there. And then after detox, a lot of people stop at that point.
Yeah.
Because either finances or whatever, that they don't have the means or a way, or the idea of, I don't know. There's a lot of reasons that can get into that. What happens next? So then you go into, and what is it called, Alicia? I can't really remember, where you went to a place that supports you, where you had to be there under watch. People were around you all the time, like a group home or something.
It was detox and then rehab.
Rehab. Okay. Yeah. So rehab, that was part of rehab.
Yeah. Rehab.
And in Alicia's case, the first one just was not, and I told her, I said, if you leave this one, we'll find you another one. But if you leave this one, there's no leaving the next one. We're not going to just go hopping around finding, places to go. And the second one was great.
Oh, it was the best. As good as rehab can be at first, but it was Like the first one, I was tempted to run away. Honestly, like I knew people in LA. We were in Long Beach. I was going to try to run away because it was terrible. It was shameful. They shamed the people there who were trying to get sober and going through all these things, and they would just shame us. And it was terrible. But when I got to Safe Harbor, it was like the most loving environment. It was like baby steps. It wasn't, everybody, all the case managers and all the staff were all sober. So they understood, and they could be, without co-signing our whatever, they would help us like walk us through everything. And after that 90 days of treatment, it was sober living. So a lot of people don't go to sober living after treatment. And I wasn't really ready to like do life yet. But after sober living, it was fun because all my friends from treatment were there. Like I made the best friends who, it's really sad. I don't talk to them anymore, but it was such a good experience. And I don't know how many people say that about rehab, but I met some of the best people in my life. And then I moved back to LA after 3 months in sober living. And I didn't relapse when I was in LA.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you? Okay, I'm trying to remember. I thought that it was like a year. I thought didn't you go back and work as a helper or something?
So I went to LA I think I was in LA for like 6 or 7 months. And then I didn't want to be away from my friends in Newport Beach. So I had to wait until I had a year of sobriety to work at the treatment center I went to. So I pretty much waited. I was just like biding my time. And then once I could work at Safe Harbor, that I went back.
Oh, okay. Because I couldn't remember that whole logistical thing there. And then, life continues on, and it just, too, I think we've talked even on the show before that sometimes there's people that come in your life for just that moment in time. Then there's friends that you have for a season, and that's probably what a lot of your friends there were for that season, and you were a support for each other, and you loved and encouraged each other. And chances are, if the opportunity presented itself that you could see a couple of them again, y'all would just pick right up like, oh my gosh, isn't this great? Because the connection was so strong,
right?
That you had during that time. And so,
and life happens. Everybody moves on. A lot of people, because Newport Beach is such a sober community. And I think a lot of people, once they're like, they feel strong enough and they want to go back to where they're from, then they do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I've been talking for a really long time.
It feels like it. So, Alicia, you're now, well, I was going to say now you're in Kansas City. No, you're not. So you were in Kansas City up until a couple months ago, which is why I moved here. And then you left me.
Ridiculous. It's the worst timing.
I know it was. But
ever.
Again, there's a purpose for everything. I think, I don't know, you may be gonna, who knows, be able to be a really help and support to some people out there. You never know. So I know you're thinking about maybe going in some way where you can help other people going through the same thing. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that would be great because, I can't address it. I mean, that I didn't go through that journey, but if you decide to take that next step as a counselor or whatever that looks like, to help other people coming out of addiction and stuff, you've lived it. Like you were talking about the people at Safe Haven, the same, they could help you because they've lived it.
Right.
It wasn't, they could just truly identify, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
and it would be the best job in the world. It'd be great.
It'd be great, and it'd be really easy for you. So
yeah. It was.
Well, one of the things when I was looking up a little bit yesterday, they say the statistics show that 90% of people who go through the process, 90% of them relapse within the first year. And then it goes that from there, that then after 2 years, about 40% do, so the longer the time goes, but they say that in the first 90 days is the most critical time. That,
Yeah.
and some people actually, relapse multiple times during that 90 days of having to try to get back together, trying to piece it. So I think that 90 days probably when you went to the rehab helped you get through those critical 90 days. So
yeah, and we had to go to a meeting every day. Like it wasn't an option. You had to go every day. You had to do the work. And yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily acknowledge or think about that I'm sober. It's just kind of what's happening in my life. But it's kind of 13 years is a long time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Like, hallelujah, praise God. That's what I say. So you know how I feel about it.
Well,
so I'm very proud of you. Huh?
Getting through really difficult things like the last 6 months of my life. It was the biggest struggle I've had in sobriety in 13 years for me to stay sober. So now I'm good. Worked through all that. I'm, living in the frozen tundra. So it's.
Yeah, she's in Wisconsin now, although we're in the frozen tundra here in Kansas City.
You are.
Change places, but yeah. So I'm very, very proud of you for the work that you've done. And
thanks,
if you ever get on that border, you know who you better call.
And I have a child. I have a 19-year-old child who will not entertain any type of, she's like Hawkeye if there's alcohol around, and I can tell her, I'm like, I'm fine, but she's so supportive. And just, it's a pretty, like, she's not having it if I think about it. And it's kind of like my relationship with you, Mom. Like, she'll call me multiple times a day. We'll FaceTime all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's that special relationship where she can kind of not talk me off the ledge, but just make sure that I know that I'm supported.
That's right. And we need those people in our lives. And I think sometimes if the addiction, if you're living with it and it goes on for years in your family, you begin to lose hope, y'all. And you don't know. And like I said, I could never imagine, even though I know we have a God that can give more than we can hope or think or imagine. That's what scripture tells us. Truly, I couldn't imagine that Alicia and I could have the relationship that we do, because when you're in the middle of it, it's hard. And I tell you, that's where you just keep loving. I mean, you have to just love that person so much and be there for them. Don't empower them. Don't enable them. You have to have boundaries. And the intervention was that. I mean, she knew if she didn't, there were consequences, and she chose a great path. She would not have a car. We would no longer provide any support if she did not do the intervention. So she would not have a car. We would give her a bus ticket to go wherever she wanted to go. She'd go back to Pennsylvania. And I'm just thankful to God that didn't happen, because that would have been the hardest thing. But, so don't give up. That's what I'm saying. Y'all don't give up. Nope. Those years now, being where we are now, I just want to give y'all hope that just love your child or your spouse or your whoever it is in your life through it, but don't enable them. Don't give them the means to keep with the behavior. Have boundaries, but let them know.
Go to Al-Anon.
Huh?
Go to Al-Anon.
Yeah. So, well, on the side, Alicia, can you see the comments over here?
Nope.
I know we're a little bit over this morning, but hope y'all don't mind.
Me being so chatty this morning.
Oh, you were great, honey. So Andrea says, I'm so glad I could be here to meet you, Alicia, and hear your story. Congrats. Keep sharing. She has to hop off. She's got a meeting. Thanks, Andrea, for being here. A couple of y'all that just say love this. Emma Lou, yay, thank you. Emma Lou, it works with keeping families together. This is the kind of thing that she helps just families in some, all different ways when families get stressed, and she's the one that can really give you some great guidance for that. Sherry, thank you again for being here. She says God's not done with you. For sharing, God has a big plan for you. And I do believe that. I have from the very beginning. Can you see these, Alicia?
Nope.
You can't. Okay. I never knew if a guest could see them or not. Well, that's no fun. But I'll read them. Sandy Archer. Hey, Sandy says, so amazing your reconciliation with your family. Thank you for sharing. And let's see up here. Oh, Andrea, a little earlier here says, Alicia, as it's been said, there are so many out there that need to hear your story. Addiction to anything is something that needs to be shared. You're an awesome lady to be open, even when it's challenging for you. That's very true. Very nice. I really appreciate you doing it. Grace says sharing your story can make a big difference in someone else's life.
Yep.
And Sandy earlier says recognition is the first key to admitting it and then having to do the work. Tough journey. Mm. And Grace says, very nice. Just a lot of y'all. Thank you for all your comments and being with us today. So, Alicia, any last thing that that you would like to share? And just one more little something.
In terms of like families thinking there's a problem or knowing there's a problem, not enabling is one of the most important things. Don't co-sign the behavior. Don't, like you lose a relationship because if you set boundaries and the boundaries are kept from whoever's setting the boundaries, it's just as hard on the family to keep those boundaries as it is for the addict to get sober or whatever, because your family's watching you. They don't want to basically like kick their children or kick their parents out of their life or whatever. So that, and like the families can also reach out for help to know how to address it or whatever. That's why I say Al-Anon, because Al-Anon is for families, loved ones of addicts and alcoholics. So that's my thing. Just, don't give up on them, but don't feed into the behavior.
Yeah, that's hard. Well, honey, thank you so much for being on here.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Thank you, all of you who are here watching and listening and who may be watching later on today or this week. Thank you for choosing to be here with us. Today was a lot about choices. And so I'm going to finish with my usual tagline. And that just, it just is so powerful when you realize that you have the choice over your life. You cannot control what happens in the world with the politics, with the weather, with the economy. We cannot control any of that. However, we get to choose how we're going to react to it. Are we going to let it strengthen us, or are we going to go with the change, whatever it looks like for whatever situation you might be in? You have the ultimate choice, and really claim that, because the choice is powerful. So remember, life is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. So choose wisely and choose to, send out a little love this week and let people know that you care about them. I think that'd be a good way to spend your week. All right. Take care. Thanks, Alicia, again.
Yep.
Love you, everybody, for being on. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye.